All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of history as something you find in like a museum or maybe some old dusty books. But what if I told you that some of the most amazing stories are actually hidden right inside the walls of our own homes, in the stuff we totally take for granted every single day? It's a pretty wild question when you think about it, right? Because that whole network of pipes, it's not just moving water around. Nope, it's carrying the entire history of your city, how it grew, the kind of weather it's had to deal with, and all the challenges it's faced for, well, decades. So for this deep dive, we're going to head over to Worcester, Massachusetts. And trust me, it is the perfect case study. It shows exactly how a city's whole personality, its whole history, gets kind of etched into its most basic systems. And that creates a set of problems you won't find anywhere else.
Okay, so what's the deal with Worcester's plumbing? What makes it so special? Well, it really boils down to this tough-as-nails combo of three things: the water itself, some seriously brutal weather, and, of course, the age of its buildings.
Yeah, this quote we pulled, it just perfectly sets the stage. It basically frames this whole thing as a constant battle. In one corner, you've got the city's plumbing, and in the other corner, a totally relentless New England environment. So let's see how that fight actually plays out. First up, let's tackle the biggest enemy from the outside, the climate. I mean, a winter in Worcester isn't just cold. No way. It's a full-on assault on every single pipe running through those homes and under the streets. And here's what's really wild. There's a specific danger zone. That magic number is 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the temperature dips below that, especially in neighborhoods with older homes, we're talking places like Tatnuck and Burncoat, the risk of your pipes freezing just absolutely skyrockets. And this really breaks down the basic science of the problem. It's simple, but it's brutal. When water freezes into ice, it expands by about 9%. That expansion puts out this incredible amount of pressure, more than enough to split a copper pipe or even burst a modern plastic one. But the real disaster? Oh, that happens when it all starts to thaw out. So the fallout from that is, well, it's pretty much exactly what you'd imagine, a huge wave of emergencies. We're talking burst pipes everywhere, basements flooding when the spring thaw hits, and even the main water lines breaking, which can knock out water for entire blocks. It's basically a seasonal crisis every single year.
Okay, so we've covered the enemy on the outside, that brutal winter. Now let's move inside the home and see how these problems just stack on top of each other. We're talking about issues that have been slowly getting worse for decades, hidden away inside the walls and buried deep underground.
This timeline is actually super interesting because you can literally map the building materials to specific eras of failure. A huge chunk of Worcester's homes went up before the 1950s, right? So they use galvanized steel pipes that are, you guessed it, corroding from the inside out. Then you've got clay sewer lines from before the 60s that are getting brittle and cracking. And don't even get me started on the city's famous triple-decker houses. They often have these crazy, shared, totally outdated systems. And here you can see the before and after. That old galvanized steel that gives you terrible water pressure, that's getting swapped out for durable copper. Those brittle clay sewer lines, they're being replaced with this flexible plastic tubing, which, get this, is also way more resistant to bursting when it freezes. It's an upgrade for sure, but man, is it a slow and expensive one. And just to add another layer to this whole mess, on top of the old pipes, you've got a problem with the earth itself: hard water. Now, this isn't a safety thing. It's all about minerals. Over time, stuff like calcium and magnesium builds up inside your pipes, like cholesterol in an artery. It chokes off the flow, and this is the real kicker: it makes water heaters die years before they're supposed to. So what you have is this absolute perfect storm of bad news: the climate, the age of the buildings, and the local geology all working against you. So, how in the world do you fight back? Well, the answer is a combination of modern tech and really, really deep local knowledge. And what's really key here is that for every one of Worcester's old school problems, there's a specific modern solution. You've got aging pipes, you repipe the entire house. Tree roots invading your sewer line, you send in a tiny camera and blast them with high-pressure water jets. Hard water killing your heater, you flush the heater and install a water softener. It's a super targeted approach. And the whole process these days has become really systematic. I mean, it's not just about patching a leak anymore. Now it's all about, first, figuring out the real root cause of the problem, then giving you clear upfront pricing so there are no surprises, and finally, making sure the fix is done right, that it's going to last, and that it's all up to code. And this bit is so important. A plumber in a place like Worcester can't just be good with their tools. They have to be an expert on the local houses, from those unique triple-deckers to the old historic colonials. Plus, they've got to know how to navigate the super specific Massachusetts plumbing codes and all the local permit rules. It's a whole other level of expertise. All right, let's zoom out for the big picture. We've dug into the problems, we've looked at the solutions, but what does all this really tell us about the city? What's the bigger story being written here? When you get right down to it, your pipes are basically a timeline, a physical timeline of your house and your neighborhood. Every single section, every different type of material, that's a new chapter in the story of how and when your community was built. I mean, this stuff they're made of, whether it's old cast iron, galvanized steel, or that new PEX tubing, that tells you exactly what era your part of the city sprung up in. They're kind of like geological layers, showing you a history of growth and all the changes in technology over the years. And all that stress, all the repairs, all the bursts, that's a physical record. It's a logbook of every single brutal winter the city has had to push through. They're basically the scars that show what happens when the environment fights back against the world we've built. And because this entire system is constantly getting older and is always under attack from the elements, taking care of it isn't just a problem for one homeowner. It becomes this huge, fundamental challenge for the entire city's future. It's like a constant stress test of its health and its ability to bounce back. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. This story, it's not over, not by a long shot. Every repair we make today, the new materials we choose to use, how we decide to prepare for what's coming, that's all getting written into this hidden history right now. So it makes you wonder, what story will your pipes tell next?